Welcome back, guys. This is the bonus class of this course, and in this course, we are going to discuss the top 15 Python interview questions. So, Python interview questions for freshers. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's start. Question number one: what is the difference between the shallow copy and a deep copy? So, you must have some knowledge about what is shallow copy and what is deep copy. And this is the definition of deep copy, and this is the definition of shallow copy, and these are the method that we use to create the shallow copy and the deep copy in Python language. So the basic difference between the shallow and the deep copy is that the changes in original object are not reflected in the copy of deep copy, and the changes in the original object are reflected in the copy. So this is the difference between the shallow and the deep copy. Let's move on. How is multi-threading achieved in Python? So this is the question about mostly asked questions in interview. So multi-threading usually implies the multiple threads are executed concurrently, but so Python global interpreter lock doesn't allow more than one thread to hold the Python interpreter. So for that we use the context switching, and it is also quite different from multiprocessing. So let's move on to the question number 3. Discuss the Django architecture. So Django is a web service used to build your web pages, and its architecture is shown as like it has a template, the front end of the web page. Then it has a model, the back end where the data is stored. Then it has a view, it interacts the model and template and map it to a URL. So actually view is working for mapping the URL. And then Django that serves the page to the user. So this is the basic architecture of Django. Let's move on, and this is the question number 4. What advantages does the NumPy array have over a nested list? So for that, first of all, you must know that what is NumPy array and the list. NumPy is written in C so that all its complexities are blocked. So NumPy is written in C language and all its complexities are packed into a simple to use module. Okay, so on the other hand, lists are dynamically typed. We have multiple data types in a single list, and therefore Python must check the data type of each element every time it uses it. So that's why NumPy array is much faster than the lists. Okay, the next point is NumPy has a lot of additional functionalities that list doesn't offer. So for instance, a lot of things can be automated in NumPy. So that's why NumPy has some advantages over the lists. Let's move on to the question number 5. What is the concept of pickling and unpickling? So what is pickling? Converting a Python object hierarchy into byte stream is called pickling. So you are actually converting a Python object into a byte stream, which is pickling. And what is unpickling? It's vice versa. Converting a byte stream to a Python object hierarchy is called unpickling. And pickling is also referred to as serialization, and unpickling is referred to as deserialization. So this is the example. If you have just created a neural network model and you can save that model to your hard drive, pickle it, and then unpickle to bring it back to another software program or to use it for the later time. So this is the basic use of the pickling and unpickling, and this is the difference. Let's move on to the question number 6. How is memory managed in Python? So this is a very important question for the interviews. Python has a private heap space that stores all the objects. So Python language has a private space. The Python memory manager regulates the various aspects of this heap, and such as sharing, caching, segmentation, and allocation. And the user has no control over the heap. So only Python interpreter has the access. So interpreter is actually managing the memory in Python. So let's move to the question number 7. Are arguments in Python passed by value or by reference? So arguments are passed in Python by reference. And this means that any changes made within the function are reflected in the original object. So anything which is passed by reference has some effect on the original object after changing. So moving to the question number 8. What does this operator do? In Python, this division operator performs division and returns the quotient in the float. So for example, like 5 divided by 2 returns 2.5. On the other hand, this operator, this is also called as the division operator, on the other hand returns the quotient in integer. So if we want to If we want our quotient in integer, then we have to use this operator. If we want our quotient in floating point, then we have to use this single operator. So for example, if we divide 5 by 2, then it returns 2. So it will give an absolute integer. Now move on to the question number 9, that how will you check if all the characters in a string are alphanumeric, right? So the answer is, like, Python has an inbuilt method which is all num, which returns true if all the characters in the strings are alphanumeric. So you have to use this built-in function which is all num. So this is an alphanumeric A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3. So dot is all num. So this is the method that we can check whether the string is alphanumeric or not. So this is true. But in this case, it's not alphanumeric. It also contains these special characters with them. So that's why it is giving us false, right? Another way to use this regex as shown is, like import re, and we have to use this bool operator, and then we can use this method, match method, and to check whether the string is alphanumeric or not, right? So let's move on to the question number 10. Is Python object oriented or functional programming? So note that this is very important question in Python language, even in interviews also. So Python is considered as a multi-paradigm language. Python follows the object-oriented paradigm, and it also follows the functional programming paradigm. But how? Python allows the creation of objects and their manipulation through a specific methods. And it supports most of the features of OOP, such as inheritance and polymorphism, right? But in case of the functional programming paradigm, functions may be used as the first class object, and Python supports lambda function, which are characteristic of functional paradigm. We have used the lambda function in our project, so let's move on. In Python, this is the question number 11. In Python, functions are first class object. What do you infer from this? It means that a function can be treated just like an object. You can assign them to a variable or pass them as an argument to another function, as we have discussed while we were discussing the functions in detail. And you can even return them from the other functions. So that's why we call them the first class objects. Now move on to the question number 12. What is the purpose of pass statement? Pass statement is used when there is a syntactic but not an operational requirement. In this example, as you can see here, when I have used this if statement, if I is equals to empty string, and then I have not mentioned any expression over here. So I simply type here pass. By typing pass, code editor will not give us error because it is acting as a null operation. So it actually acts as a placeholder or a null operation, or no action required sometime. So else print I, end. Now move on to the question number 13. What is the difference between the matrix and the arrays? So an array is a sequence of objects of similar data type, right? Array do not contain the data of the different data type. And what about matrix? A matrix comes from a linear algebra and is two-dimensional representation of data, right? So array is a single dimensional and it has two-dimensional representation. An array within another array forms a matrix, right? So when we combine two arrays, then it forms a matrix. So it comes with a powerful set of mathematical operations that allows you to manipulate the data in interesting way. So matrix is bit complex and arrays are a little bit easy to deal. Let's move on to the question number 14. What is the docstring in Python? So this is basically a docstring. The string which is mentioned in 3 double quotations is called as a docstring. This function adds two numbers. So I have created a function def add a comma b. So this is a docstring, and sum is equals to a plus b, return sum. Sum add 10 comma 20. So now print assessing docstring method add dot doc. So this is the method, like we can use the docstring in our output. Sorry, I mentioned here 17, but it is actually 15. So how do you display the contents of a text file in reverse order? So how we can actually display the content of a text file in reverse order? So the answer is you can display the content of text file in reverse order using the following step. Step number 1. Open the file using the open function using file handling, right? Number 2. Store the content of the file into a list. Step number 3, reverse the content of the list by using the reverse function. And step number 4, run a for loop to iterate through the list. And even there is a step number 5, and then you can use the print method to print the whole data or whole content on the in the output. So these were the 15 top most asked questions in Python language interviews. So I hope you like this video, and I have also mentioned the answers. So that's it for today. See you in the next lecture.